Okay, so for this problem, we are sketching the graph of the derivative. We're not actually drawing the derivative because I can't get the derivative drawn exactly. I don't know what f of x is, so I'm not going to be able to figure out the equation to be able to draw the graph exactly. And I don't have linear pieces like we did in a different video that I posted. Linear pieces, I can figure out the slope, and the slope is the same throughout that line. Here I have curvy graph, and so the slope is always changing. So what I need to do is I need to look at three different things. The first thing that I need to look at is when is the slope equal to 0? That's going to help me get some coordinates on this graph. Next, I need to figure out when the slope is positive. That'll tell me when my value should be above the x-axis. And then finally, I need to figure out when the slope is negative. That will tell me when my values should be below the x-axis. So we'll start with a slope of 0. We mentioned this in class. A graph has a slope of 0. Right now, high points and low points. That will get edited, but for the most part, you can stick with that. So I have three spots that are high points and low points. I have a high point here at x equals -1. I have a low point here at x equals 0. And I have a high point here at x equals +1. At those three spots, I have a slope of 0. The tangent line is horizontal. And so at those three spots, at x equals 0, at x equals 1, and x equals -1, I know that my y value is going to be 0 on my graph for the derivative. So on my derivative, I plot three dots, -1, 0, 0, 0, and 1, 0. Because at those three spots on f of x, we have a 0 slope here, here, and here. Next, I'm looking for positive slopes. Well, if my graph has a positive slope, that means it's going up. So we are going up from the entire time this graph exists until x equals -1, and the graph is going up in between 0 and 1. And so that means that the values on my derivative graph, my y prime values, have to be above the x-axis. Because if we are above the x-axis, we have positive values. That's a positive slope. So every x value that's less than -1, x is -2, -3, -4, that has a positive slope. So I need to be above the x-axis, but I also have to hit that first blue dot on the left. So to be above the x-axis and hit that blue dot on the left, my f prime graph is going to have to look like that. Also, I'm increasing, my slope is positive between x equals 0 and x equals 1. So I have to start at the blue dot at the origin, 0, 0. I have to connect that blue dot to the other blue dot at 1, 0. But I have to always be above the x-axis. So from 0, 0, I'm going to go up above the x-axis, but then I got to come back down because I have to connect to that point. All of those values that are green are above the x-axis, which means all of those green values are positive values because the slope is positive. Finally, we have to graph the spots where the slope is negative. Well, a negative slope means the graph is going down. So between -1 and 0, the graph is going down. And then from 1 all the way on, the graph is going down. So again, I'm going to graph those points below the x-axis this time because I want negative slopes. So starting at my first blue dot at -1, 0, and going to my second blue dot at 0, 0, I need to connect those dots, but I need to be below the x-axis. So just like we did with the increasing, with the positive slopes, I'm going to drop down, but then cruise right back on up. That way I connect the two dots, but I'm always below the x-axis. After -1, after +1, I'm always negative as well. This graph is always decreasing. The slope is always negative, and so I need y values that are always negative afterwards as well. And so there we go. And we have now sketched, this is not exact, but we've sketched the graph of f prime. It's not exact because I don't know how high that green bump should go. I don't know how low that red bump should go. I'm not going to be able to figure that out because I don't have enough information as far as the graph is concerned. Knowing the y values of my f of x function doesn't tell me how high up those bumps should go, so I estimated. That's why I didn't put any y markings on this y-axis. I didn't put any y markings there because I don't know how high up or how far down those two bumps should go, but I just sketching the graph. I'm not getting an exact value.